Good morning, traders. It is Tuesday, May 21st. Taking a look at the charts, we've got the SP 500 here, and this is the daily chart. If we look at the price action, you can see here we've had this pretty significant standout pivot low in the market. We've had a bounce up. The question is this a little bull flag and we're going to extend and go higher, or are we going to pull back down to this measured move? Now, overlaid here, the blue line, this is our cycle analysis. It takes multiple different time frames and puts cycles together to give you a bias of when there's an upward or downward bias in the market. We've also got Fibonacci extensions on here. So let's just start off with one piece of analysis at a time. So let's take a look at the Fibonacci extension. We had the market top here. It's sold down to this low. We've had the reaction high. Using those, we can get a Fibonacci extension to where the downside target is if we have a continued sell-off. This will be the 100% measured move right along here, this 2738 area, which could be a fairly significant pivot low if that hits, and then we could start to potentially see price rally. Now, on the flip side of that, if this is a bull flag and we continue to see price go up, if we take a look at the cycle analysis, let's I'll just grab take a look at the cycles here. More or less, we've got this significant standout low down here. Let me grab a different color so you can see a little better. Go yellow. We've got this significant standout low down here. We've got another significant standout low down here. And then we've got these other ones that are looking like they're not quite as deep. Now, overall, the way the market works, or the cycle analysis, you've got longer term cycles with a whole bunch of shorter term cycles. So when you get these larger standout lows, you can picture a larger sine wave cycle like this moving the larger time frame. Within that, you'll have smaller cycles that are also moving. So you get these smaller cycles, and then within those, you get a series of smaller cycles that start to pull on the market, where there'll be a series of smaller waves within the waves, and they just create these potential little smaller moves in the market. So that is where we are. We are looking like we're somewhere near a very significant pivot low in the market. We could be seeing the market extend and rally and potentially flirt around for a little while and potentially go up to new highs. That's the big question, is are we going to continue to go that trend, or are we going to start to see this break down and actually start to get a little more bearish? Now, at this point, we need to still be relatively bullish. We're still holding up above all the key moving averages. We're above the 200-day. We're above this this pivot low here, and of course above all these other pivot lows, and of course this very significant one. So overall, this is just a deeper correction here, and we could very much so see price continue to move up. Maybe it could struggle a little while and then eventually go higher from there. Maybe we'll put in some type of a double top. I've got a top here. Maybe we put in a top somewhere over here. But overall, if we look at our short-term analysis, and this is where the market, it can get complicated for a lot of individuals. This 30-minute chart overlaid here shows green bars mean we're in an uptrend, orange means it's got mixed signals, red means we're in a downtrend. So in a short-term basis, as a kind of a momentum, very short-term kind of swing trader, we are still in a downtrend. We're still struggling. We do need to see price start to move higher and pop to kind of reverse this trend. We're going down. We want to start to see a series of higher lows, and we want to see a series of higher highs, and we really want to break. We've got a high here, we've got a high here. We really need to start to see it break above this level. So we do need to see a strong pop. And if it can get up above this level, then more or less the momentum has gone from a downward bias to more or less an upward bias. And we could start to see this continue to go higher. So that's where we are in the grand scheme of things. Can be a little confusing. Every time frame gives you a different bit of a market bias. The daily chart here overall does look bullish. We've got cycles pushing to the upside. We'll see if we can get some traction this week. And if it does continue to move higher, we're going to see the VIX continue to fade. And for our short UVXY to continue to move into favor, I think it's up over 20+%. We could be around 30% by the end of this week. And we'll see how things unfold there. So let's go take a look over at, let's take a look at the dollar. US dollar continues to move up, very strong currency. In fact, when you look at FinViz in the page of all the different currencies, it doesn't matter if you go look at a 3 or 4 month view or the weekly view going back a year and a half, really the only currency that is trading higher is the dollar. All other currencies are trading sharply lower, going back 3 months, even a year and change. And as the dollar continues to rise as the safe haven currency, it's keeping pressure on gold and miners and commodities in general. We're back up. This is the UUP ETF that mimics the U.S. dollar. In short term, more or less, we're back up to this 98 level on the U.S. dollar index. I am expecting it to continue to go up to the 99. And potentially tag the 100 level, at which point, if it gets there, I think it'll be a very significant kind of top, and the dollar might stall out, and that's when commodities really start to carve out a bottom and start to show some real signs of life. But this strong move up in the dollar over the last week and a half is holding commodities down. And there's still potential for the dollar to continue to move up, which is going to mute any flock to the safe havens if this dollar continues to move up. Once we see the dollar start to top out, that's when commodities, I think, are going to really start to shine. Let's take a look over at gold. Gold down 0.5% this morning. It had a nice pop there, started to break out, couldn't hold it. It's faded back down. We're actually getting a little oversold here. We're back down near these lows. We do have a cycle low showing. We should start to see this bounce and pop and start to move back up, hopefully this week. Grab some traction. If we look at the miners, of course, they're going to trade lower as well today. We've talked about this for a while, that the miners could still very easily shake out and move down to some new lows. They're putting in this bottoming formation. They could still have a little bit of a washout low, but overall we are showing an upward bias for miners as well, that hopefully they'll find some traction here, start to carve out some type of bottom, and eventually break out of this area and start to move back up. Taking a look over at natural gas. Natural gas kind of chopping around here. Again, not a fan of the price action. Our cycle does show it should continue to fade higher, but really these cycles aren't very strong. Usually you want to see nice big oscillating cycles. When it's a very tight little range like this, it really is just a lot of noise, no real direction. So tough to follow a kind of a flat line with random price action. Looking at crude oil. Crude oil continues to hold up. It's holding up near this resistance area. Looks like it could fall into some selling pressure here based on the cycle analysis. You can see here right across this line, we're getting into, we've had a nice upward trend in the market. It broke down and now we're coming up. We're testing this area potentially as resistance. Cycle analysis shows we could have a downward bias here for 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe it'll get some type of bounce. We'll see where it goes. But overall, it is at resistance, and it has broken the short-term support trend line, and now it's under this area. So we could start to see some weakness here in crude. Last but not least, let's touch on Bitcoin real quick. Bitcoin all over the place, some huge volatility. Again, it got back up into this previous high we talked about just as the day it came up and tagged this area, talking about this is going to be a fairly significant point where the market could start to reverse. It's jumping around 10-15% intraday. Really wild move. Overall, we're letting it do its thing. To me, the momentum has shifted to the upside, and more or less, we're looking for it to consolidate, build some type of platform, some base for it to potentially break out and have another significant run, potentially to the 10,000 mark and beyond. But at this point, it's a very high momentum move, meaning it's gone straight up, it's chopping around. It's going to be very random in which way it goes at this point. It could have a huge break to the upside. It could have a huge breakdown. Very similar to this, you get a high momentum move to the upside. You don't know if it's going to continue with the second half of that move or if it's going to reverse and fizzle out. So got to be really careful with these high momentum moves. They can catch you very quickly and move very fast. Let's just touch on the XLU. We are long XLU. It hit our first target there last week. Overall, XLU, the cycle here is showing that we got an upward bias. We could see a flock to safe havens today, or this week, I mean. We could see this pop and start to extend, maybe hit our second target. We'll see if we get that. overall hit our first target. Our blue line here is where we ended up getting in to XLU. It hit our first target. Your stop should be back there now. So if price does reverse intraday, it's a hard stop, meaning it should be placed with the broker. If price starts to fall and slice through it, you get taken out instantly at that price. But based on cycle analysis, we could see the safe haven pop and really start to expand to the upside. This type of move looks very similar to this move right over here, where we saw the upward, we saw this strong upward cycle in the market. More or less, utilities were trading sideways through here or channeling their way up. When we got this upward cycle, we saw a nice pop and expansion in the safe havens. Of course, when huge selling hit the overall market in December, all stocks got taken down with it. But I think we're in the same boat where we've got a flock to safe havens. We see this pop up, and then if the market does start to sell off later, utilities will get hit very hard. But overall, they should be the early mover, the safe haven. We could see this rally up and hit our next target. Anyways, here's XLU, or sorry, our short UVXY looks primed and ready. Our next target is somewhere down here around this 34. It's got a nice little bear flag. It looks like fear is fizzling out, and this could easily continue to go down and hit our next target going forward. Anyways, that's it for this morning. Talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.